Greetings, nerds. This is Cena Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Paul. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Happy Thursday, and I think we're kicking off the summer of Marvel, among DC and other things. But I feel like it's really like the summer of Marvel. We've got Spider-Noir we're talking about tonight. We got the trailer for X-Men '97, and of course, Spider-Man's coming later in the summer as well.
Yeah, well, we've been stuck in Marvel since April with Daredevil.
I know,
So
yeah, but
just
Marvel's
say, just say.
yeah, but I know, but I feel like Marvel's cooking right now. I really do.
Yeah, they're doing something. I didn't watch the trailer for X-Men '97. So do you want to share your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I watched it. I really enjoyed it. I think it. I know I know whenever we finished X-Men '97, I know we we had the team was like scattered, and I think it was like the Battle of Apocalypse, and really, I knew that it was coming out this year, but I was thinking, and I heard it was going to come out this summer, but then I heard it was going to get pushed back to the fall. But I was super excited when I saw it, and I was as we were joking in the pre-show, I was like, I know we were going to cover Invincible in July, but I already and you knew what was going to happen. I like messaged you and said, let's cover X-Men instead. So
Yeah. So you hear that? Blame Will if you were really looking for Invincible season 4. It's been pushed back yet again.
yeah,
Man, we're
we'll get yeah.
becoming a DC movie. Jesus.
We'll get to
Um,
it when we get to it. Yeah.
yeah, we'll get to it.
Cool.
We are actually here at long last to talk about the first episode, not all 8 episodes, but the first episode of Spider-Noir Season 1, Step Into My Office. The IMDb summary reads, "It won't conclude the way you expect. Will, you watched this in color and black and white. What did you think about this episode?"
Yeah, so first thing, I think really have to clear up what this show is, because I can already, whenever I first heard about Spider Noir, my mind immediately went to, oh yeah, this is the spinoff of the Spider-Verse movies, because that was where I was introduced to the character. And then of course, there's also the Spider-Man Noir comic book that is also that's based in the 1930s, like this show is. But in both Spider Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man Noir, the protagonist is Peter Parker. And so this show is not. It's actually Ben Reilly, and so it's influenced by the source material, and of course Lord and Miller are executive producers on the show, but it's more connected with those other two iterations of this character by inspiration rather than being a direct adaptation. So so I really I enjoyed it. I think this is one of my new favorites shows as far as in the comic book genre, because first episode, yeah, I mean, of course it could go off the rails down the line, but at least out of the gate, I really enjoyed this episode. And I'll go ahead and yes, it was in both black and white and color. My preference, just by a nose, is the black and white, because it really does set the mood as far as the whole crime noir, getting you into the atmospherics of the time of the Depression and all. But I will say the color version, I like the color version too, because the colors it is very vibrant and very comic booky, and whenever you look at the color palette, the hues are just jump off the screen, and very I guess with the color, you can there's some texture things that you do see that are a little more, maybe a little more, almost maybe muted is the right word, or a little different in the black and white. But just for the vibe, if you're going strictly on vibes and you like crime noir drama, movies and film noir from like back in the day, Bogart, that kind of stuff, go with the black and white. But I watched both, and I enjoyed it in both formats.
Yeah, I really liked the quote at the beginning of the episode. Or someone once asked me, no, not that one. Am I an extraordinary man? Yes. Am I an ordinary man? Yes. I'm both neither, but aren't we all? I really like that, and I did enjoy this episode. It came out with what exactly I expected it to be. So nothing surprised me. And between the tone, between the writing, between the acting, I think the cast so far has been great, and the art direction is good. I watched it in color. I always get glares whenever anything, and people, long-term listeners have heard me complain about this with my TV, is that sometimes when things are too dark, I can't see. So that's why I opted for color.
Yeah, I will say to that point, the black and white, especially because that's the problem with just any shows. I mean, like for example, my Star Trek shows, they're in color, but they're so underlit. But I will say that the black and white version is it's not underlit. It really, and I watched it, on TV, and I also watched a little bit on just to see what it would look like on the computer screen too. I mean, it was, no matter what platform you're looking at this show on, it works, and the lighting is not underlit at all.
Yeah. That is good for both me and our listeners to know about the black and white version. I might check it out in the future. Do not know. So yeah, it's hard to talk about this show just because I feel like we just started. So and we got 7 more episodes. So we just got a lay of the lands. We find out that he was the spider up until 5 years ago when his fiancée died. And at that point, he put away the mask. We learn that Winston, who's a journalist, knows and has had a long time relationship with the spider and Benson.
Do you mean Robbie or?
Oh, I meant Robbie. I was reading something.
Okay.
So we know that he knows about the secret and is trying to encourage Ben to come back and embrace the spider. So, and then we also see Flint Marco make an appearance.
Yep. Yeah, the Spider-Man, the Sandman. Yeah. So I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, whenever you first started, and with the opening, am I an extraordinary man? Yes, am I an ordinary man? I'm both, neither aren't we all. I mean, I think to me that was like something that it was a good way to sort of just set up the framing of Ben Reilly, because Ben, for folks who heard of the name Ben Reilly before, many folks think it's, as I mentioned before, there's a spider, the Scarlet Spider, who was a Peter Parker clone. But here it's truly, it's Nicolas Cage's character, and it's not a clone of Peter Parker or anything like that. It's his own individual, but it does set up that every man kind of thing with that you'll sometimes see with Peter, as far as just ordinary life, and then of course events happen such that they, whether it's Peter or Ben, become a Spider-Man. So I think it also gets into some of the noir elements too, where these are it's kind of down on their luck people. Many times when you see these detectives, something's happened, and you referenced the fact that we learned that Ruby was sort of the triggering event that in this case, it wasn't to inspire him to become the Spider, but it was actually to him, for him to like step away from it all. But of course, I think she was the one that had the great power comes great responsibility line that, is woven throughout the Spider-Man DNA.
Yep. Should I have known that when I heard the name Cat Hardy that she would be involved with Flint Marco?
Yeah, that's ultimately Cat Hardy's the Black Cat, if I recall.
She's Black Cat. That's not
Yeah.
Felicia.
I know Felicia was the Black Cat in the animated version of Spider-Man, but yeah, back in the 90s. But I mean, that's the thing too. I think they're taking I think this show is showing that it has it's taking elements of the Spider-Man mythos and making it its own for the series.
Yeah, which is very aligned with when the most of the public was introduced to Spider-Noir through the Spider-Verse movies, which do a very similar thing. So I was just asking about Cat because with any good noir, there has to be a femme fatale.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, so she'll be the Black Cat. Interesting.
I think that's what they're setting up. Yeah, I mean, I think
I just looked her up, and that was the first thing that come up. It was the fact that she was at one point in this universe a version of the Black Cat, and you need that femme fatale, and I appreciated that twist where initially her quote unquote husband is out to track her down because he suspects she's having an affair, and yet it turns out not the wife. And there's something else involved with the mayor going on, and now we have Flint, and so they've also done a good job to set up arguably a couple different mysteries going on that will interweave in the next few episodes.
They do that. Like I think whenever you were mentioning Winston. So Winston was the one who had hired hired Ben and also hired Donegal, which is funny enough. Donegal was actually the another show from that we were watching earlier this year, Paradise. He was the guy that Gary. Yeah. I didn't. I was looking at the credits after that just to digress for a moment. I was like, where did I recognize that guy from? And I was like, oh, okay, that's the actor who played Gary in Paradise. But they were both hired to search and look for Addison, who we see as a character who is has pyrotechnic as far as his powers, and of course that he is killed, but in doing and setting up this character again, they're setting up all these within this universe. Not only do we have Ben who has powers, but then we're also first we're seeing that Addison is having the powers, and then later in the episode, of course, we see Flint becoming the Sandman. So within so even though whenever we were first introduced to Ben at the very beginning too, as he was swinging through New York, and he was like, someone once asked me what universe this is, a strange question that stuck with me all these years. It was acknowledging the fact that there is a multiverse, but it's also like it's also setting up a thing where this is its own universe that we don't have to do a bunch of homework. It's going to it's going to show us who all these characters are, and when they introduce them into the Spider-Noir show.
Yeah, definitely will. I'm going to be curious to see what they do with the themes of masculinity, because that's where film noir comes from. So So that will be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't have that many new and interesting thoughts about this because we're just getting started.
Yeah.
I'm sure Will is about to go on a 10-minute box moment. But what were you going to add in?
No, I mean, no, I think, yeah, I mean, I think, what do you think about Ben as far as Ben as a character? I mean, it's like, for example, I know one of the things you had in your notes, like with the spider sense and whatever. Do you think it's a situation where he's rusty, or do you think there's something that's like off of the spider sense as far as maybe some dramatic, the trauma of losing Ruby kind of threw him off, because it seemed like in the episode the spider sense would either go off. He would have the migraine headache as far as the manifestation of it, but the but it seems to either go off too soon or too late.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was an interesting wrinkle to put in there, or to make sure the viewers were aware, in case anybody was questioning where's his spidey senses. They acknowledge the fact he has them, but they're quote unquote broken of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
We'll learn more about that later. I just see Nicolas Cage. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Yeah. I don't see Ben. I see Nicolas Cage. I hear the voice from the movies, and I'm just like, yeah, this is what it is. Nothing stuck out to me about any in terms of character or performance. I mean, yeah. When I say that, like, I watched it just this last night, yesterday. I didn't think about anything that happened in this episode at all today. so that's when I'm like, yeah, okay. I watched it, but nothing stuck out, or nothing I was like, ooh, I have a theory about this, or a question about this, or want to really dissect this moment, because everything just was setting up for what you've already explained in terms of this world and this hero, as well as the people around him. I mean, the one thing that drove me also a little bit crazy throughout this episode was Peggy, because Peggy kept harping on how long she hasn't been paid. And I'm like, girl, you're wearing some makeup and some outfit. You best be working someplace else, because you're getting paid somehow.
Yeah, Janet,
the money situation, I didn't really track, and logic, it didn't make sense to me. But
well, I mean, but again, it makes sense because it's the 30s. I mean, it's the Depression. So
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand what era this was in, and made, but they didn't present her as down on her luck. But it just there were some things, but
yeah, I mean, as far as the Janet, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Janet did have, I mean, because she did mention.
Oh, her name's Janet. See, I don't even know the characters' names that well. I watched this once, Will. Yeah. You watched it like what feels like 5 times at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, yeah. I mean, with Janet, I mean, they did like share. I thought they, as far as the dire straits, I mean, she did mention like she was. They haven't been paid, and multiple times. Whenever seems like Ben was always whenever they like scored up some money, he was he ended up giving Kat the photos that went up with the merit and negatives for free, and then there was that, and then also the whenever they were just getting information about Addison, and he learned that Donegal had gotten like $200 versus the $30 that he had received. It was so I think they were just showing that they were literally living paycheck to paycheck, and one step away from losing that office and losing everything. So and again, just sort of setting up, just like we always see with Peter sometimes. He's living out of living out of, literally out of a closet sometimes.
Mhm.
And so again, it's like I get what you're saying as far as like
Well, I just think if
the
they were
familiar set
truly
pieces.
living paycheck to
Yeah.
paycheck, there wouldn't be
Yeah.
so many instances where in this episode alone, we saw Ben walk away from money.
Yeah.
Like if they continued to say throughout the entire episode, I really need to pay Janet. I really need to pay Janet. And yet every single moment he made a decision not to pay Janet.
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, okay, we get it. Maybe we're on the last rung, but anyways, anything else you want to talk about in regards to this episode?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it is just the first episode, and they are setting up there was a lot of setup, which of course first episodes do that, but I'm hooked. I'm looking forward to like watching the next few episodes and seeing where this goes. I mean, and um yeah, and maybe hopefully maybe as we get deeper into the series, you'll have more thoughts about it. But at least for me, I'm definitely hooked. Hey y'all, it's Will. Real big favor to ask: if you're liking what we're doing here, please hit the like button, drop us a comment, and also subscribe. We're growing this channel, and we appreciate each and every one of you. So with that, thank you so much. Let's get back to the discussion. Yeah.
So, so random topic.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure the listeners are aware that I am staying true to myself. And a few weeks ago, when Amazon released this little show called Off Campus, I did binge it within the weekend. I have rewatched episodes, mainly one episode. I'm a Dean Alley person. Okay. I like all the characters, but I'm going down hard with that ship. Okay. I'm really looking forward to their full season. And also, it did, as Will tweeted out earlier this week, I did realize but it took me all the way to the end of the season to finally look it up. And I was like, where is this guy from? And he only appears in the last 2 episodes. So keep that in mind. It's not like he's a regular or was a lead. No, he was a cameo in the final 2 episodes. He's going to be a bigger player in future seasons. But I looked it up and I was like, oh, he's Cal's son.
Huh.
From Paradise. So I was like, okay, I see you. But why I also brought it up is because that wasn't the only person who I've seen before in other series. There were 2 people who also appeared in the pit. One as a cameo and one actually as like a major character, especially in the first season. And then there is also from this little show that we've covered and we will be covering in the future called Dune Prophecy, an actor from that. And in fact, he had conflicting priorities between continuing with Off Campus or Dune Prophecy, and he's bowing out of future seasons of Off Campus because of his need to be on set for Dune Prophecy. So yeah, they really have created a rising actor kind of ensemble with Off Campus. And I am very tempted to go and start reading the books.
Okay.
But yeah, I like it. My one thing that I don't think is talked about enough, Garrett, love him, love the actor, especially knowing the actor's first name or his SAG card reads Belmont. Kid you not.
Huh.
But his performance, he could have been, he's basically the nicer version of Steven from Tell Me Lies.
Huh.
It's the same voice, I swear to God, and there's mannerisms. Steven is unhinged and a complete asshole. Garrett is the good version of Steven. And so I had a hard time throughout the series because I was like, oh my God, this is if Steven was like grew up in a normal household or had just daddy issues and not mommy issues. I don't know. It was wild. It was wild. But yeah, I wanted to put it out there that I am very much on my game and I've seen Off Campus. And do I think it's better than a little other show? Oh man, I was doing so well. And now I'm blanking. What's the other hockey show?
Oh, Heated Rivalry.
Heated Rivalry. I don't think it's better, but it is not bad. It is better than other shows within this genre. And Heated Rivalry took graphic nudity to a whole new level, but I was surprised by how much nudity there is in Off Campus.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a bit shocked. And we just went through, hey, it was on par with Tell Me Lies. So I think that this is honestly just what we've needed now that Tell Me Lies is over in a way.
Okay.
And now everybody's on the hockey game. Like, it's the heterosexual version of Heated Rivalry.
Okay.
kind of, but not really, because Heated Rivalry also involves a multi-year spanning situationship. And then with these, every season is about a different couple. So very interesting, but we are not here to talk about that. And we are not here to talk about the fact that I am watching the Summer House season 10 reunion. And oh my God, it's the best. I've already rewatched it. Anyways, looking forward to parts 2 and 3 in the future. All right. And then that brings us to the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that we both went out to watch this weekend, almost at the same time, despite time difference, which is so funny.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
The IMDb summary is: once a lone bounty hunter, Mandalorian Din Djarin and his apprentice Grogu embark on an exciting new Star Wars adventure. Will, you already saw like the first 20 minutes of this episode or this movie. What did you think about watching the full thing?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, was it like groundbreaking? No. I mean, but it was just a fun popcorn afternoon matinee movie, and there were elements of it that were very enjoyable, especially because I did see the sneak preview, and then because the preview cut off when they were in when we first get introduced to Rotta the Hutt, and whenever he's on that I can't remember the name of the planet, but once the rest of the story went on, I will say there were a couple places where I did kind of like, I got checked out. It was speaking of the same planet with Rotta and the cage fight with the CGI creatures. It was like too much CGI, but overall I enjoyed it. I think there were definitely like elements where they were trying to talk about legacy and fathers and sons and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of surface level, and I wish they had gone a little bit deeper into some of those themes. But yeah, overall thought it was fun. And I'll catch it again sometime, probably on TV. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to probably go back to the theater for it, but yeah, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. Do I love it? No. Have I thought about it since watching it? No. But this is Star Wars that was made for kids. There we go. It is. And the unfortunate thing is, looking back at all the previous seasons of The Mandalorian, like, this is par for course. This is what I kind of expected. This is where they were going. It's annoying because of where The Mandalorian started and then what it has become. It's really, as a viewer who's watched the whole thing, even the shows that are basically another season of Mandalorian, but we just don't call it that. You know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. And yet here we are, and we get another 2 hours and some odd minutes of another adventure, which is basically just a long extended version of an episode of Mandalorian. So I do want to say that I think I got the most enjoyment about lining up voices, because I didn't know Scorsese was in it, or Scorsese did a voice actor.
Yeah.
I did not know
that was cool.
Yeah. So that didn't take me out of it. I appreciated it. It sounded fun. He definitely has a unique voice. I also wasn't taken out of it with Jeremy Allen White. Because they did something to his voice. That isn't Carmy from The Bear, okay? Because the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that that's him, but I'm not. I swear they did something. Or my ears were hearing something else, because I did not hear Carmy at all.
I heard Carmy, I think the first time I heard his voice, I was like, oh, it's Carmy. But as the movie progressed, I did get it was less, expecting to hear cousin come out of his mouth.
I had the complete opposite experience where I was like doubting it at some points. I was like, is he gonna be somebody else? But I think you were gonna chime in at one point while I was talking.
No, I was I was thinking about the Scorsese of it all, because that wasn't the first. I did see that in the sneak preview of it, and I really enjoyed that moment. So that was one of those situations. I think, I don't know, Scorsese's character was practical effect or if it was CG, or maybe a combination of both, because that was one thing I did like. I know, like I said, the cage match took me out of it, but I have to say, anytime Grogu was on screen, I really appreciated the puppetry work that was going on. So, this movie did, like, whenever they did go at using the practical effects, I think they were very effective. Even like at the fight there at the end in the Hutt Palace, where Mando was or Din was fighting the two robots, and I think that was another blend of the practical effect as well as the a little bit with some CG enhancement. Those moments really worked really well for me as far as just the film. And and I know people say
I had no problem with the CGI in this movie.
Huh, okay.
I don't know, like the Star Wars TV shows that you forced me to watch has inundated me to expect it. So I had no problem with it, because I mean, that's just the era that we're in. Is they rely more heavily on CGI. Please go back to last week when I did recently watch a movie where CGI was used, and it was like, no, you don't need. So this didn't take me out. Not even the arena fight, because the arena fight, I just kept thinking about a Thor. I kept thinking about that. Thor
there's that. Yeah.
And then I kept thinking about Dune 2.
Yeah.
So it's this funny thing where for me, a situation like that, I'm less worried about the CGI and more thinking about, like, man, Hollywood is really obsessed with these fight arenas right now. We just keep getting them one after another. And then to fast forward to the fight at the end, my one issue was more of a practical thing. I kept, during that whole sequence with the snake, the water snake, I kept thinking to myself, okay, but why whenever we zoom out and can see him like above water, it looks like he's standing, and he's pretty much standing. And yet when we go into the water is very deep. So that kind of editing, I was like, oh my God, this is really bad, because that took me out of it.
Yeah, I was, I was sitting there watching. I was thinking too. I was like, how is he like Suspana? Is he just having the best luck in finding branches that could support him?
That's what they want you to believe. And I saw Pedro Pascal in an interview even bring up this fight sequence, and they had platforms, of course, that he was standing on, but the water itself was very deep. So, I was like, I could see this, but I don't think we shouldn't be able to question it. It should, and I feel like it was such a long sequence that it went on and on, and it gave us time to actually be like, wait a second.
Well, I'm glad you brought up about long, because I think that's what, when I was going back to the siege, the arena fight, I think for me it just went too long. And you're right. You're right. I mean, and maybe subconsciously too, it was Thor Ragnarok and any number of arena fights that we've seen. Even I mean, hell, just going back to Gladiator. I mean, it's just it's just a very tired. I guess it's just a tired trope. I guess that I think maybe that's where I was sort of like, that's what will stick. It wasn't so much maybe the CG, the polygons of it all. It was more just, give me something new here. Because it was just that the trope.
Yep.
And I think, so they could have tightened it up just a few minutes, and then the other thing too is the whole thing with legacy and stuff. I mean, that was, not every Star Wars has to be Andor, because it is a 4-quadrant show, or as far as the shows or even the movies. And you're right. I mean, it totally kids loved it. I mean, anytime the Zellans like showed up or things happened, I mean, there were some kids sitting right behind me and they were just cracking up. Like, I was like, oh yeah, that takes me back in the days when I was like seeing the Ewoks showing up. But even when I was a kid, I hated the Ewoks, so maybe not. But
I liked all of the Ewoks in this
the
thing.
Zellans. Yeah, I like the Zellans. I did too.
I also got the biggest kick out of Grogu shoving Mando into the cave he built.
Yeah, that was cute.
For some reason that really slapstick humor really got me. I think I laughed a few times. I think the humor was on point, but my whole thing is why it doesn't go deep. And you're right. And nobody is saying this needs to be like on par with Andor, because Andor is written for adults.
Right.
Mandalorian, as the seasons have gone on, has deteriorated. And maybe that's an offensive word, because kids are people too, but has come down in terms of its writing and in terms of its deepness into being for kids. And I know there are plenty of kids movies. Hey, Toy Story 5 was a preview for this movie.
Yeah, that was deep. That trailer was deeper than this film.
There we go. Like, that's my point exactly. Kids movies can be deep. It's just that more often than not, you do get this kind of like commercialized, we just want to sell toys, and we want to take you on an adventure, and this is what we do. And there's honestly, in a way, I wasn't surprised by the story that was told. I just feel like they don't have anything more to do with Mando. And so they're stuck
Yeah. Yeah.
because you've cultivated this relationship, but beyond that, you haven't thought about like an overarching point. I mean, I feel like his story ended seasons ago, and now it's just wash, rinse, repeat of adventures in the galaxy, and instead of exploring new aspects, and hey, there's going to be the Ryan Gosling Star Wars movie, so that might be the fresh take, and I think that, and I don't think people should have expected this to have been on par with Andor. If you're watching, like, the signs were definitely pointing in the opposite direction.
Yeah, so. for sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. To your point, I mean, the Denzellans, it was very cute to seeing them, and I really enjoyed them, and teaming up with Grogu and all. And the other, even though I didn't necessarily knew it was not going to be like super deep, I do agree with you that in some respects it did feel. They have taken the arc with Din Djarin pretty as far as they can at this point, short of they teased, like as I mentioned before, legacy, and of course whenever he got bit by the water creature and the poison, and I knew clearly I knew he wasn't going to die. I mean, there was there's the manufacture peril, but they're not going to do this. They're not going to carry through with it.
Well, but that's not even like an exploration, because we've seen it before, and him as a Mandalorian, the whole showing of his face, where we're like, that happened in the TV show. like come on, guys, you clearly don't have anything else to do except for to kill him. So it was just like, maybe if we fast forward a few decades, we'll get to this very sad episode of Mando and Grogu where Mando actually dies. But they need someone for Grogu, because we can't understand Grogu.
Right. Well, at least they didn't like have him talk, because I think, because if they ever do that, it's going to be so disappointing, because there's just it's the anticipation of it will never live up to the actual execution of Grogu actually talking, or even saying even if he goes da, in front of Dada or something like that. I think keep Grogu as he is. Let's let the puppet do his thing as far as the animatronics, and it'll continue to work very well. Assuming that they even do, make another movie for these characters, or if they do produce the fourth season, or maybe they'll show up in Ahsoka, because we given that what this is we do know it's in the New Republic timeline, and maybe they'll do like they did with what they did in Book of Boba Fett, where they'll have a little interlude where we see Din and Grogu.
And Rotta. I was kind of annoyed that Rotta parted ways twice. I was like, I don't know. I think Grogu needs you. I think this could be a fun trio. And a different trio. So I would like to, if we get more from these two, I want to get more from all three of them, because I think we got a lot from Rotta.
We did.
And I would be curious to understand his journey moving forward as this person who is not going to be follow the same path as those who came before.
Yeah.
But also because of who he is, kind of being branded with that, like, well, we all y'all are the same. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think that's very similar to what we've seen from Mando,
Yeah.
and so that makes me curious about these three as a trio.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed those. I enjoyed those moments too with Grogu and Rada and yeah, and Mando as well. I know I know we talked about one big name. The other, of course, was Sigourney Weaver as far as Colonel Ward, and it was pretty cool seeing her go from. I was like, I joked with one of my friends at the movie. I was like, well, I've been around long enough to now to see Sigourney Weaver go from being Ridley to Star Wars. So seeing Ridley fly in an X-wing, that was pretty dope.
Well, I'm
But
glad that
yeah,
pleased your Gen X heart.
yeah, it did. It really did. It did. But yeah, I mean, her character, yeah, clearly it didn't really have
Didn't
much.
have anything to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing to do.
Just give some lines, pick up a paycheck. Here's the new Razor Crest, and go your way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was the unfortunate thing about that appearance, is did not have anything to do.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
nothing. But then again, as we briefly talked about before, not a lot of these characters did have anything to do. So
yeah,
there was a
yeah,
lot of stuff happening, just not it. Yeah,
yeah.
there was the same old thing. We're looking for a bounty hunter.
Yep, yep.
And then, well, actually, yeah. So, well, that is a wrap for that. We will be back next week to talk more about Spider-Noir. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBLMONT. Please follow our crew on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scene and Nerd. On Blue Sky, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd, and visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.